thanks Anastasia, and thanks to the Creative Mornings team. And it's good to see a great turnout here. How many of you are really dying to get back to work now after the summer, really looking forward to getting into things?
We never stop working.
No. All right. Some people never stopped working. How many of you really feel that you could do with a few more weeks of holiday and lying on a beach somewhere in the sun? Yeah, okay, so that's the majority. So, another question. How many of you enjoy using your imaginations? Ooh, best response of all. I'm going to talk a little bit in this speech about my journey in imagination. It's going to have a little bit of my history thrown in. It's going to be a little bit of a creative speech in many ways. I'll be throwing in different elements, and I'll be looking at ways that I've used imagination in my life and how music specifically has impacted that. So when I was only 7 years old, I actually decided I wanted to live in another world. In fact, when I was 7 years old, I announced to the world I was going to be a hobbit. To get to our family home, you had to go down a long, bumpy track through a deep forest. The trees, they were overhead, like leaning in across the road. It was like traveling through a tunnel into another world in a way. Me and my brother, we'd spend hours playing in those woods. And the most fascinating thing was that there was an old ruined estate there. And when we were playing amongst the old ruins that had stood there of this old mansion, it had been there about 150, 200 years previously. It was like stepping into another dimension. If I closed my eyes, I could hear the lords and ladies coming, on the carriages, the horses' hooves, tick, 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 tick. And if I could smell the smell of roses in the gardens and the fresh bread baking in the kitchen houses. Often, though, I'd find myself walking off to the edge of these ruins, to this strange, slightly darker place, where there was like this set of steps going down into the forest floor, and at the bottom of these steps, down several meters, was a dark, heavy wooden doorway. This place had a much more sinister, heavy ambience about it. But I was fascinated by that door. And I'd stand there for ages looking at it. It was as if there was some sort of force field, though, holding me back. I couldn't gather the courage to go down and actually push it open. But as I stood there, I'd always think, I'm determined to find out what's through that door. And one day, I would find out. I'm going to ask you now to do a little listening exercise. When I play this song, or excerpt, I'd just like to ask you all to close your eyes and just listen to it. And just to allow whatever images to come up or feelings to come up. And then once you've done that, you're going to have a few seconds to chat to your neighbor about what images came up. So I invite you all now to close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. Yeah. A Viking ritual, yeah.
Like tribe dancing around the fire, and the dragon came to kick out
Ah.
and then the sun started to come up, and the dragon was flying away, and then some animals appeared.
Wow. A lot of images. One more. Yeah.
A white stag outside a Scottish castle.
A white stag. That's
White with mist.
it's a beautiful image, yeah. And
I
one.
would just like to point out that I was sort of in LAPD police sorting out at the beginning.
Wow.
When she started singing, it was like, oh, that was the wrong movie. So I went with the Braveheart instead.
Braveheart instead. Well, imagination takes you everywhere, right? So Carl Sagan, I'm sure quite a few of you know who Carl Sagan was. He said, imagination can often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere. Imagination can often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere. So imagination, if we let go of control, it'll lift us up. It'll take us away to worlds beyond our wildest imaginations. Conversely, without imagination, we go nowhere. We can remain rooted to the spot, stuck in this sort of humdrum daily life, but without any greater vision. We can become victims of apathy and despair, even depression. My school life wasn't the easiest of times for me. Did anyone else here feel sometimes like an alien at school? Yes. Yeah. That's a good response. That's a good response. I know I did. I know I did. I remember the day when my art teacher came into the room and he said, "Today's assignment is for you to draw a watering can in a garden." 13-year-old me sat there, ready to go with an A3 piece of paper in front of me. And I thought, I've got this nailed. So I got to work. 70 minutes later, I handed in the result of my exertions. This wasn't the exact painting. I've got to say, Mid-Journey did this for me, but it was pretty similar to this, okay? It was pretty similar to this. So what happened was that we waited a week then for us to get our results back. After these works had been marked. We'd do that, we'd hand them to the teacher, and we'd get the result the week afterwards. I didn't come out top in the class. I didn't even come out medium in the class. I came out bottom of the class. I was crestfallen. I'd put my creativity and thoughts into this and thought I'd come up with something fun and exciting. Remember, this is 40 years before the advent of robot lawnmowers and all this kind of thing. 40 years before that. But I'd come bottom of the class. So I approached my teacher at the end of the class and I said, "I don't understand why I came bottom. I did a technically good drawing and it was inventive." He said, "Stephen, you haven't followed the assignment. You haven't followed the assignment." But I did, Mr. Jones. I did follow the assignment. I turbocharged the assignment. Okay. You know the drill. Close your eyes and see where this piece takes you. Okay, you can come back. And same thing. Have a little chat with your neighbors about what that brought up. Thank you. Any quick popcorns? Any? And I know somebody is going to say Champions League football, but.
First, I was in Vienna listening to Philharmonica Orchestra like every January. I do.
Okay.
Not in Vienna, on TV.
Okay.
And I was there.
Yeah.
And then, what the hell? I'm in Champions League.
I knew it was there somewhere. Okay. Anyone who's got a non-football related one?
It was started out very quickly like a ballet, but then immediately was Pride and Prejudice. Running through a field of meadow at the end of like people being happy, and then it hits the credits.
Wow.
Finish.
When the choir came in, yeah?
Yeah, well, a little bit before that, and then you know when you get to the part of the credits when you're bored and you're ready to leave, that was then what was happening at the.
Okay, great.
This is like the meta commentary. I found this time that like the narrative was so clear to me that by the time the choir kicked in, instead of like trying to see what image it evoked in me, I was trying to fit something into the narrative itself.
Yeah.
So I was still trying to figure out like what is the end scene
Ah.
by the time the song ended. So 'cause
Okay.
at the beginning it was very clear, like you're walking through like a structured kind of English garden into the grand house and people are waltzing, and then you run out. But then it's like what's worthy of that crescendo in that end?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What it evokes.
So you were preempting already.
Exactly. If I stopped letting it come to me and I was trying to control it at that point.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, this is by Handel, this piece, the composer. It's called Zadok the Priest, and it was actually coronation music in England back in the late 18th century.
I had a feeling that it's written to celebrate one person and
Yeah.
show the journey of this person, that it was not easy, but there were lots of people who were like kind of dancing along to help this person.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought about Joe Biden, but it was very nice. Like the story of his life,
Yeah.
for him to become president, was
Yeah.
his life, and he tried so many times.
Interesting. Yeah. It's sort of like got this endless march to it, you know. So, anyway, let's move on. And now, going back to school. So sometimes it felt like the schooling system of the 1980s was doing its level best to crush my imagination. But there was a magic spark that always got the wildfires burning again. And that magic spark was music. That magic spark was music. Just think how music, it sort of embraces our emotions. It lifts us out of the darkness, and it gives us wings. When I was 14, shortly after my failed art career, I announced to the world that I was going to be a rock star. My parents didn't agree. My teachers didn't agree. And when I practiced my cheap electric guitar at home every evening, my cat did not agree. But I kept on practicing, and I kept on visualizing myself on a stage, and I kept on practicing, and I kept on seeing myself on stage. And 10 years later, I'm happy to say that I did actually manage to get a record contract and record 2 albums and tour Europe and the USA. Now, we were never exactly major league rock stars, but I did at least get to prove my teachers wrong, and that felt good. So, the name of the band was Ignorance. Ignorance. And then later on I found Nirvana. So it was, yeah. So we're going to do one last one of these listening exercises. So these come in quick succession. Close your eyes again, you know the drill, and let's go somewhere else with this one. Okay, welcome back from that adventure. You know the score. Swap a few ideas. Okay, popcorn. Any interesting images came up with that one? Mad Max. Desert scenes, right, in the future. Bike chase, yeah. Any others?
Impossible Mission.
Mission Impossible,
No.
even.
Yes.
Who said that? Sorry. Yeah, I can see that.
It would have to be the Bollywood versions of these two.
Yeah.
They had this Bollywood.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. Interesting view.
I
Yeah.
feel like that fit with like the 90s urban wasteland kind of thing, which had that like, I kept thinking, you know that like concrete LA viaduct that's in
Yeah.
all those action movies?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, but that also had a lot of like, the punk teens were wearing like various world music clothes, so I feel like it made sense.
Yeah.
I pictured from that era very much.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think it would also fit very well something like Agent 007, like traveling around the world, different cultures, but yeah, like overcoming obstacles and somebody who's like very likable, moving towards the goal.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Sort of world covering. Yeah. One more.
Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia for the old ones.
Prince of Persia. Okay.
It's like an old video game.
Okay. You'll know about that. Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, this is actually a French avant-garde heavy metal group called Igor, who do some pretty berserk stuff. I recommend checking them out. They push the limit all the time. So, moving on in my musical adventure. After leaving the band, I decided I was going to become an opera singer. I kid you not. I kid you not. So picture the scene. 10 years later, I'm standing in the wings of an opera stage. I'm feeling a little nervous, so to calm myself and center myself, I close my eyes and I take a deep breath. All of a sudden, I'm transported to Seville in the 1800s. I look out across an arena and I see the sun above the audience's head. Across from me, a raging bull is stamping up a cloud of dust. Today, might be the day that I die. I take another breath. I hear the crowd roar, and I step into the arena. Votre toast, je peux vous le rendre, Seigneur, Seigneur, car avec les soldats, oui, les toreros peuvent s'entendre, pour plaisir, ils ont les combats. Le cirque est plein ces jours de fête, le cirque est plein du haut en bas. Les spectateurs perdant la tête, les spectateurs s'interpellent à grand fracas. Apostrophe, cris et tapage, poussés jusqu'à la fureur, car c'est la fête du courage, c'est du encore. Allons, on garde, allons, allons, toreador, on garde, toreador, toreador, et songe bien, oui, songe en combattant, que nul noir te regarde, et que l'amour t'attend, toreador, l'amour t'attend. Everybody. La 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 la. Et songe bien, oui, songe en combattant, que nul noir te regarde, et que l'amour t'attend, toreador. L'amour t'attend, toreador, toreador. L'amour t'attend. And for the next 2 hours, the audience and me are transported through a doorway into the ritual space of the theatre. We're engaged in a collective act of imagination. Now you're probably wondering, what happened to the little hobbit standing at the top of the stairs that we talked about earlier, looking down at that dark doorway in the forest? Well, when I was 8 years old, my family moved to a different part of the country, and my hobbit days were officially over. And I actually never went down those steps and pushed the door open physically. But in my mind, in my imagination, I carried it with me. And I kept on going through that doorway over and over and over again, and going on fantastic adventures on the never-ending road of the imagination. So I encourage you to keep on exploring worlds that never were, to keep on seeing the change that you want to be in yourself and in your world, and to keep on stepping through the doors in your imaginations. Thank you.